Hey, everybody, welcome to Big Ideas, the podcast where three co hosts rotate roles to explore real conversations, meaningful ideas, and the decisions that shape our lives. This week, I'll be leading the conversation. I'm Mark Steiner, joined by my co hosts, Jessica Broadway and Justin Gabossi. Before I make the formal the introductions of who they. Well, let me do that. I'm going to just do that. I'm going to
Perfect.
see who they are, and we're going
Right.
to do. Okay. So Jessica Broadway is a coach, speaker, and author who works with leaders, entrepreneurs, and individuals navigating seasons of change. And she's so much more than that. Doesn't even mention that
Thank
she's
you.
a
Thank you.
yeah. And then Justin Gabossi. Justin's a world traveler, human optimization coach, musician, and deep thinker who brings curiosity and range to every conversation.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
yeah,
Mystic.
what's the POV for you two? Jessica, where are you?
Nixa, Missouri, on this chilly, rainy day.
Mm,
Excited for a good conversation with you guys today.
how about you,
Nice.
sir?
I'm in Thailand. I'm in the Gulf of Thailand on still on Koh Phangan Island right now. I don't say that lightly, like still here. Like I'm very glad to still be here. It's
Being
beautiful.
there now. Well, that's
How about
lovely.
you,
And
big dog? Where are you hanging out today?
I'm in Springfield, Mo, and I will be for a couple days, and then I won't be. Next time we do this, I probably won't be in Springfield, Mo, and I'll be talking about some far off destination where I'm at. But I'm in good
Will we be
spirits.
playing Where's instead of Where's Waldo? Where's Mark?
Yes, there's a lot of bouncing around coming up.
You're gonna give us like pictured clues so we can try to figure out where you are. That'd be a fun
Maybe,
game.
yeah, yeah. But more than that, I've had a great day already. I'm joined a gym and
Ooh,
like a studio, and I'm doing stuff like Pilates and yoga and strength
what?
training. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited, guys.
Pilates
Uh,
is tough, man. Well,
it
all of it
was
could
the
be
stuff
tough.
I'm doing now is yeah. I'm very excited. So
Wow.
today Justin's in the hot seat, and we're going to talk about gut health and how it affects mood, energy, focus, and more. Are we ready? Audience, are you
Ready?
ready? Okay, we're gonna
Yeah.
try. I'm gonna try to channel the audience and think of questions they might ask.
All
Starting
right.
with this, all right. But before we get into specifics, how does gut health connect physical, mental, and emotional health? Just break that down really simply for us, Justin, would you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, most people think that digestion is just about food and the stomach, but the gut and brain are in constant communication. It's called the gut brain axis. And they're connected through the vagus nerve and hormones and chemical messengers, neurochemicals, things like that. Immune signaling is a big thing as well. So, the health of your gut directly impacts the health of your immune system as well. So it's a two-way conversation. So when digestion is strained, mood and focus can shift, good or bad. I mean, it just depends on, like, again, the set point of your gut, and you can drive the mood up or down, and the immune system up or down. And when you're in high stress and you have issues in that area, this can lead to irritability, brain fog, emotional reactivity. Yeah, kind of turns you more into the sympathetic fight or flight situation.
Mm. So that's why my kids are feisty.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a lot of good home cooked food around there. So I would
and-
imagine everybody's guts are pretty healthy in your household.
yeah, but I can't deny you're spot on. I do see how food does impact the mood for
oh,
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time. Big time.
yeah. I know this is to be true. I I've cut out for the most part packaged processed foods,
Mm.
and my whole health has changed so much. but I think for sure my mental health, my brain power, my clarity, my ability to think, my ability to focus, um, my less distraction in my life is because of I'm very certain it's correlated to the food I eat, because
Mm,
I'm I'm not taking any stimulants. I don't take anything for my condition, for my ADHD,
mm,
Wow.
and I'm doing really well with it. I'm
managing it.
yeah, I'm managing it, and I know I wouldn't be if I wasn't hydrating, if I wasn't drinking lots of water, if I wasn't getting good sleep, and if I was eating um, worse foods. If I was eating, so yeah.
Justin, I have a question. So I've heard it said that your brain is actually your second brain, and your first brain is really the gut. Is that
Mhm.
would that be
Yeah.
fair to say?
Yeah,
Um,
it's definitely fair to say. And even if you go back and look at how things develop when you're in the womb,
yeah.
um, a lot of that, the gut brain axis is kind of forming at the same time. And there's obviously some nuance to that, but yeah, this is where, I this is where, like, I'll skip ahead just a little bit, but you spoke to it, Mark, on how it impacts the brain and the so much, like your focus and stuff. And a lot of this is also related to blood sugar. And a lot of
Mm,
people that are listening might relate to this, that you can kind of steer a lot of, so we eat the food and we think, oh, we're eating the food, right? But actually, the bacteria in the gut is eating the food and driving a lot of the things that are the byproduct, which again is neurochemicals. So serotonin, dopamine, a lot of hormone production happens in the gut as well. So this can affect estrogen, testosterone, human growth hormone, like so many different things. Um, and so, yeah, and so another thing that I always try to tell clients is, if you want to steer your cognition like you do, Mark, and like you figured out how to do, is if you time your insulin spikes, the kind of pressure that you put on the pancreas. So, like, here's a prime example, right? So let's say somebody's worked in the morning, a lot of cognitive load all morning. And then the typical thing to do is to maybe go have a big lunch, or some people skip lunch, right? Which isn't good either. But let's say you go out on a business lunch, and people will oftentimes eat or maybe overeat, and maybe there's a lot of carbohydrates there. So you eat the carbohydrates, you eat a lot of food, your blood sugar goes up, your body makes insulin to help digest or help balance this whole thing out. And so you get a spike and a crash. You know what I mean? Just like if you have
Mhm.
sugar.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So I actually tell people, especially if they're high performers, if they're corporate executives, things like that, we steer the foods that they eat based on their cognitive load throughout the day, so they can keep the blood sugar a little more stable and the cognition a little bit more on point. And I do this
Mm,
as well.
mm.
Justin, how tell us more about how this actual communication works from one brain to the next. Like
Yeah.
what's going on exactly? I
Yeah.
have I had I had a nice little omelet this morning, like sort of an omelet. I had eggs, which I'm told is sort of a perfect food, and I love eggs, so I try to have it every morning, protein. I had
Nice.
mushrooms, which I think are good brain food, right? Like I had lion's mane
Oh, nice.
in my stir
Ooh.
fry,
Yeah.
and I had mushrooms, some onion, some garlic, some olive oil. No, I did grass fed butter, and that was my breakfast. What's
Ah.
going on right now with me? Right? Like, how's this brain working right now?
Well,
Am I,
right now it seems to be working pretty good, bro.
you think?
Uh,
Right.
yeah. So it might help to kind of describe to the listeners, and then for those of you watching, I'll do this thing I like to do with my hands. So what I'm doing here is I'm interlocking my hands, and the palms here. Let's say these are This is the inside of your GI tract, your small and large intestine, right? And so we eat food, and this layer is only about one cell thick, okay, on the inside, the way my fingers are interlocking. So if you can imagine one cell and one cell, and they lock together like Velcro, okay? So we take in food, and this junction needs to stay tight, right? So we take in food, and it's basically just this barrier is protecting us from whatever is getting put in the tank. So all kinds of things introduced through food, even bacteria, viruses, pathogens. And so this layer, this very delicate layer, decides what gets into the bloodstream and what doesn't, right? So the food, we put the food in the tank, it goes through the GI tract, and the bacteria break down the food, and there's byproducts. They basically help us digest our food. And then depending on which microbiota, which bacteria are available, we can get some favorable and less favorable results. Like some bacteria really love refined sugars and things like that. And those can drive neurochemicals that get you in a loop like dopamine, right? So it's a whole community there. And so you can steer the community by the foods that you're intaking and stuff like that. So here's where it goes awry is, let's say, through environmental toxins or medication, which we need medications, but antibiotics specifically, let's say you take a round of antibiotics to get rid of a disease or some kind of an illness. Well, that can wipe out the delicate balance, right? So then it's important to build that back up. So basically, food goes in. As long as this is tight, everything works good. And hopefully you have the right microbiota balance, which we can talk about. And we get the right nutrient absorption, like you did with the eggs and the mushrooms today, like everything's working well. Blood sugar staying fairly stable because you didn't eat a whole bunch of carbohydrates. So you're cognitively sharp and you go into the day feeling pretty strong. But with the introduction of the medications or anything like that, environmental toxins, you can get breakages in this delicate Velcro barrier, and that's leaky gut, right? So now you may have even healthy macronutrients like what you had for breakfast, Mark, all healthy stuff, healthy protein, healthy vegetables. But if you have breaks in this barrier, some of those can get into the body, and that mounts a inflammatory response. And this can drive autoimmune. This can drive all kinds of issues.
Wow.
Hopefully that was not
I've heard
too
of
much.
leaky gut syndrome before. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. So any number of things can drive that inflammation. It could be alcohol, it can be foods that we shouldn't be eating all the time. Like I mentioned, medications, which you do need, right? So there's timing for all this. But yeah, leaky gut is basically you just have breaks in that barrier, and it starts to drive inflammation and all kinds of other issues. And it can affect how your food's absorbed, which then again, we get into the neurochemicals, we get into the hormones, and now things start to really fall apart.
So, and it affects, clearly it affects how we think. It affects
sure.
how we, our mental health becomes jeopardized at that point.
Yeah. And here's a prime
example.
Yeah, absolutely. Like a prime example of how this something that a lot of listeners might recognize is if, let's say, you go out and have some drinks one night, right? And what you're doing is you're making that environment, that gut biome environment, a little less favorable for those communities, right? And so they may just be like, this is not sustainable to live here, so we're going to roll out, right? And you start to create an imbalance. And once you create that imbalance, a lot of clients tell me they experience anxiety and stuff the next day after drinking. And it's not just the byproduct of the alcohol, but also you've really impacted the gut biome in a negative way. There's ways to mitigate that damage pre and post, but that's just a prime example.
So let me, I hear all of what you're saying, and it's almost like I can feel myself a low level of anxiety building that I can't eat anything because I'm just going to screw it up. So like, what are, it feels overwhelming. It makes me really want to put blinders on and just be like, if I don't know better, I don't have to do better. Right. Yeah. And, that's a little bit scary in some ways. And so, can you like walk us back a little bit or help me feel less overwhelmed about the process of maintaining homeostasis in my gut brain axis?
Yeah. Great question. It can be super overwhelming, but fortunately the solutions are really simple. So like one of the biggest issues is eating too fast. So you have all these, like the body's is amazing. It's brilliant. So it's going to function well as long as you give it the opportunity to function well. So when we're rushed, distracted, stressed, the nervous system shifts into survival mode and the whole digestive thing kind of starts to fall apart. Number one, just try to source, okay, as decent a food as you can, right? I know sometimes people are in a rush and you have to go through fast food or whatever the case might be, but you can give yourself a foot up just by slowing down and taking your time when you eat food. You calm the nervous system down. This increases the body's ability to make digestive enzymes and things to break the food down. Another thing to do is just try, I mean, we all do this, right? But it's try not to scroll, try to watch overeating and irregular timing. So again, start really simple and just slow down a little bit. Make sure you're getting some nutrition first and foremost. A lot of people skip meals. So eat and slow down and calm down. There's, it goes back to like really interesting things. Like we heard this myth, or I guess it's a saying or a wives' tale. I don't know what you'd call it, but an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right?
Yep.
And Jessica was asking the question, I think she was driving toward, what do we eat? And so what I would suggest, first of all, is getting back as often as possible to whole foods. Like there's a lot of talk now about how when you shop, to shop on the edge of the grocery store, where you're getting, basically think of it like this. If you can't go out and find it in Mother Nature, then it may not be the best, right? Because there's been some refinement processes. So back to the apple thing. So there's a particular bacteria called Akkermansia that is really good for the gut, and it drives health markers in a lot of ways. Akkermansia loves red-skinned fruits. So apple peels, for example. So it's kind of funny. The apple a day, we're finding now, years later, that drives Akkermansia. Akkermansia is a gut bug that we like to have. So I would say start there. Even if you have to run through a fast food or something like that, just maybe pick off some of the things that are quite so processed, like right. Try to look at the protein, maybe less fried, but whole foods is where I always recommend clients to start.
What I've been encouraged by is there seems to be more options. There's more restaurateurs that seem to be catering to better health. Not just there's a place here in Springfield that is entirely allergy free, and they started in the farmers market, and then they opened up sort of the bake shop concept in the town that they live in Nixa, and now they've opened up a restaurant that they're doing breakfast and lunch in this restaurant, so you can get meals.
Wow.
And so the options are there. You have to work a little harder. Unfortunately, I think it's possibly a little more expensive. But my philosophy about that has been, I may pay a little bit more upfront, but I'm gambling on the fact by doing so that I'm not going to have to spend a lot later with hospital bills, being on medication or doctor's visits and stuff like that. That I'm lengthening my life. I'm lengthening the quality of my life by eating better, by making better choices.
Yeah, you're going to pay for it now, or you're going to pay for it later. And the one thing that we do every day, we do multiple times a day, is we eat food. And it goes all the way back to Hippocrates saying, food is thy medicine. So you have several times throughout the day to make choices with the nutrients and the food you're taking in that are either going to drive health or drive disease. And it's, even small steps, even small incremental improvements, Jessica, like you were saying, you're overwhelmed, and we were talking, about the apple and it feeds acromancy. And I was saying about just
Mm-hmm.
trying to focus on whole food, and it's so you don't have to like change everything in the cabinet and wipe out the fridge and start from scratch. It's like slow down, think about whole foods and how many good decisions can you make? Can you make more good decisions than bad decisions? There doesn't need to be any increased stress or self-shaming out there. It's just bringing awareness to the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Jessica, do your boys take bag lunches or lunch boxes? Is that still a thing to school, or is it?
I plead the fifth. So
I'm
I
not
have,
even, go ahead.
to be fair, two of them eat school lunches, and then one of them I send a lunch to. And right now we're just in this really difficult stage where he's in a mono food stage where there's only one thing that he'll eat and at school. And a lot of that is just the stage that he's in, but also it's very difficult for him to eat a full lunch and then also get his social hour in. And so there was I would go to a painstaking lengths to make him a nice healthy lunch, only for him to throw most of it away because he didn't have time to eat it. And in his mind, if it's just lunch is over in the trash, Right. And so while it might not be the healthiest choice, it is my in between, and it is where I'm at the moment with it. And so, I'm really glad for food label changes that we're seeing and the improvement in that. And what I hope that will come from that is, the red light, yellow light, green light kind of labeling system that they're thinking about implementing that will help parents make better choices when they do need a processed snack to send, or they do need something like that. Maybe a good, better, best model of being able to do that, because you sometimes do get stuck in situations where, I think a few weeks ago we were talking about, do I fast or eat the donut, when you were coming back from New Orleans, so I get it that we're not going to be in that. I think I like what you said, Justin, about just focusing on can I get what's the wholest version of this I could get, and start there, and then know that we're all human beings. We live in a world that's kind of a little bit stacked against us as far as optimizing our health, right? And we could probably go down a huge rabbit hole there about diminishing our capacity for creative thought and innovation and all of that, and the meta conspiracy theory to suppress humanity. I'm not even going to go there, but that's something to consider. If you want to sabotage people and take away their creativity and their individuation of thought, make them brain fog, give them some brain fog.
Oh yeah.
I am. Go ahead, Mark.
No, you go ahead, Justin.
I am kind of glad you went there, Jessica, a little bit, because you hit my hot button. But that's the thing I really want people to take away is this is, again, it goes back to self-regulation. Like figuring this food thing out and just making these little small choices each day is really bringing back this word sovereignty has been tossed around in conspiracy too, like stuff. But I mean, when I think sovereignty, I think, can we think clearly? Can we feel good? And make good decisions, right? And as I've been traveling around the globe, I'm seeing vast differences in food sourcing and the things that are in foods. Probably a lot of the listeners know this. Maybe some of them don't, but when I was in Europe, there's over 1,500 different chemicals that they don't allow. Like there are cereal companies that make one specific recipe for a cereal that gets sold to our kids in the US, and there's a much cleaner version that gets sent to Europe. And so like, this is about just your power is in your decision, and it's all those small decisions each day. And we need to try to support each other and also support think of yourself in a positive light and just be like, hey, I'm going to do the best I can today. I've got several times, I keep saying this, but I want people to get this. I have several opportunities to make a good choice. Breakfast didn't go well. Okay, let's move on. Lunch didn't go well. Move on. Can we do better for dinner? okay, we did a little better for dinner. Let's start fresh again tomorrow. And each of those decisions, and when you buy those cleaner foods and you buy those whole foods, you're telling the producers of those products, oh, the general public in the US wants cleaner whole foods.
Mhm.
Yep.
And it seems like you're doing that reward loop for yourself as well. It's like, okay, I do really want a piece of candy right now after dinner. I want that sweet thing. And so I'm going to have one instead of the whole bag, right? And then adding some mindfulness to it, thinking better about it and being like, hey, before I eat the chocolate, there was a movie that I saw recently, and I can't remember the name of it, honestly, but there was this one moment, it was a injured soldier, and he was in rehab, and he was in a lot of pain, and the physical therapist came to him and gave him the medication. She said, I just wait 15 minutes before you take that. And he said, why? And she said, so that you know you can. And I thought it was such a powerful level of awareness that sometimes our habits, our emotional state overrides our ability to endure and to grow our capacity for discomfort. And I think that's something you could really apply to food as well, is that like, if I really want this and I'm craving this, you can have it. Just wait 10 minutes just so you know you can, so your food isn't owning you.
I really love that. That's
Yeah.
such a great point. The thing I think we've forgotten is, humans evolved to do hard work. And we used to base our schedules and our lives around sourcing food when we were hunter gatherers. There was the sourcing, there was the hunting, there was the gathering, there was the preparation, and there was the sit down and relax in the community. And I've seen a lot of that community in some of the other cultures I've been in, and luckily I was raised in a household, thanks Mom, where we had sit down dinners and things. And I think it instilled some really good values. But the hard work component is when you do hard work and you make a tough decision, like you said, Jessica, and you put that off for a minute, you actually increase dopamine, like naturally increase dopamine. So we kind of have two ways to do this. You can spike it through food and social media and stuff like that, or you can try to discipline yourself for a second and you get natural dopamine spike that way as well. And so, like I like chocolate. And so one way I rationalize it is I have a little cleaner dinner, and then that allows me, okay, now I get to have my piece of chocolate or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But by pausing, I think it's that take a breath, take it to stop, and if you can, during that time that you're deciding or processing, I'm about to eat this thing, an extra step beyond that is, how will this thing make me feel later? I know that instantaneously it's going to satisfy my taste buds, and it's going to do something to me through glucose. I'll get the dopamine hit, but half an hour later, an hour later, later that night when I'm trying to sleep, how is that going to affect me? And am I willing to sacrifice that for this instantaneous satisfaction? And in that same space, if you can then say, well, what I'm feeling is I want a candy bar, but would a piece of fruit, could a piece of fruit possibly do the same thing for me right now? Would a piece in it, and you can indulge yourself by putting honey on it, or a natural, a
Yeah.
less processed sweetener, and play around with it. And I guarantee you later, not only will you sleep better, your bowel movements will be better, your moods will be better, everything will be better. And I, me and Allison did a pretty good job with the diets that our children had. Like, we didn't have soda in the house. We didn't have certain things that they never acquired a taste for. To this day, those things don't taste good to them. And for the most part, no, I wouldn't even say for the most part, entirely, my children have really good diets.
That's great.
They might eat a lot. They've taken that from me. They might indulge in the good stuff, but I think it's better than overindulging in the bad stuff or indulging in the bad stuff. Yeah, but it's hard. It's so hard. God
You,
bless you, Jessica. It's hard. It's hard raising a family. It really is.
you know what this is really, you know what this is really about is we can really, we can go into tons of science and tons of hacks and things like this, and I can bore people with facts, right? But this is really about practicing self love.
hmm
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's really what this is about, and having your have trying to reestablish some self love, and that is something as simple as it is. It can be a big thing, which is food, because it's supporting every system in our body. You know, um, and I think I've worked with a lot of folks that stress eat, or there's a lot of different emotional things around food, and that's a real deal. And like you said, Jessica, like unfortunately, the media and advertising is really stacked against us, especially like raising kids, because they're getting so many things pushed on them, and then they want to pull on the parent's arm. Hey, can I have that particular thing?
Right.
But what I hope people to take away is just baby steps toward redesigning that self love with yourself, not judging, and just taking a couple of these nuggets that I've mentioned, like whole food, and slowing down a little bit when you eat.
I got a question for you. This, so Mark had said, like, maybe substituting things, and here's where this has been a problem for me. Like, could you have a piece of fruit or this? Um, Admittedly, sometimes I have done worse by overeating even a healthy thing to try to mentally unhook from the cookie or whatever, and then I end up eating all of that and then the cookie on top of it because I finally give in. And
Yeah.
so, like, to me it seems logically like, okay, you want the cookie, so just eat the cookie and then do some extra, post meal movement, do something to help counterbalance your thing, go for an extra walk, allow yourself that indulgence, shame free indulgence, instead of punishing yourself for it. You just have to create balance. Think, is that school of thought? Like, do you get what I'm saying about that? Because I feel like there's this push to, well, just mentally have to overpower yourself and not participate. But when I make cookies for the kids, I'm having a cookie, like that. Maybe
Mhm.
I still have some growing to do, but the piece of fruit or the rice cake with honey on top is not going to hit like the chocolate chip cookie does. And I'll probably eat that, and then I'll probably eat the cookie as well. So tell me how I'm massively screwing up, or tell me it's okay, or what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, a great question. I do the same thing, and you're right. You kind of have a couple of options. You can either steer health with like with food. That's the biggest component. But if you're going to have a little bit of fun along the way, you need to find some discipline somewhere to maybe go do some movement. And you spoke to it, the post meal movement thing, and it goes back to the blood sugar thing we talked about at the beginning, and steering the blood sugar. And this is a way oversimplification of this, but when your blood sugar goes up, you only have so much space to store sugar and glycogen in the liver and the muscle, and then that spillover turns into fat. So if you're going to have that cookie, then go move your butt for a minute. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and the people don't understand, this actually can be super simple. I've actually done post meal movement while I'm eating a cookie. I mean, it's really like 25, 30 seconds of like a walk, or not a walk. A walk needs to be a little longer. You need to get your heart rate up a little bit. Like I do body squats a lot, tell clients to do body squats or planks. You just, again, and it also goes back to the dopaminergic thing. So you're balancing the blood sugar out, offsetting maybe the damage from the cookie. And you're keeping yourself in more of an insulin balance and more of a fat burning mode instead of a fat storing mode.
Well, I use real ingredients when I make the cookies,
Well,
so
that's I was going to say, Jessica.
Yeah,
Jessica, that's huge. You you,
it
you said
is.
when I make my children cookies, I'm
yeah,
going to have a cookie. Um, that's to me, that's step one. If
right.
you're making your food and not buying a packaged cookie, that's number one. my I'm opposed to chemically processed foods.
Yeah.
Foods that are, frankly, they're designed, they're in the labs to make us desire them, to
Yep.
make us overeat them, to make thus that we keep buying them. But if you're making your food, if you're baking and you're baking from scratch, uh, then fantastic. If you know the sources of the ingredients that you're putting in there and they're not chemically, then I want cookies. I want your cookies, because
I
Yeah.
do make really, really great sugar cookies at Christmas and amazing chocolate chip cookies. I'm just saying.
yeah,
The
I
key
love
Yeah,
is
but you're
melting the butter before you
yes,
mix it. That
yes.
is,
And you know
you're
what's
such,
even better?
you're
Browning the
such a
butter.
good baker. What? Sorry, what, Mark?
Browning the butter. The
Ooh.
brown.
yeah, I make a brown butter sugar cookie that is
Oh,
out of this world good.
makes me want to slap my mama.
Yeah. Oh
I
man.
mean, gut health. Let's circle this back around to
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
listen,
it's
we
all
want to live.
reality though.
yeah.
This is part of living. I mean, people are we're trying to enjoy life too, and just find the
Right?
ways, find the way to do that. The biggest key is steering. Here's really what you're doing when you put in the work, and the work again being slowing down and picking whole foods, trying to make things from whole sourced ingredients like you're talking about, Jessica. What we're really doing is we're steering the microbiome balance. I mean, that's really what's happening. We're trying to spin up the more favorable bacteria that are really giving us the byproduct of a healthier body, right? Versus the other bacterias that tend to drive disease and love sugar and things like that. So all these little micro decisions, you're kind of rebuilding your microbiome foundation. And that is what's driving the good mood and the energy and the clarity and the weight loss. It's a whole system, and it's pretty simple. It's very complex, but you can start making improvements very simply, like we've talked about here.
Yep.
Let's as we're winding down here, let's talk like sort of simple hacks that we might do. Jessica, you'd be thinking about this because I'm going to go to you first, and we'll have Justin finish it off. But if we want our audience to remember one thing, what is one thing that you do, Jessica, in your personal life, or you as a mother, as a wife, what is it that you can do or have done that has worked for you?
Well, my entire culture, growing up and everything, and family bonding and everything has happened around food. So I did go through a pretty significant season, and still do it sometimes, feel emotionally connected to food and have used food to self-soothe, right? And as I've evolved and I have learned and I've explored processing emotion and all of that good stuff, if you want to feel better, you got to start with feeling better, but then that will lead to thinking better. And once you have that clarity, I just beg you not to be scared of the clarity that you have. Do the work to heal the parts of you that use food to make you unconscious, basically. There's people will eat stuff so they don't feel bad, and they'll go into their sleep coma and live avoidant as they navigate their journey. But when you eat food, it's going to come with a cleaner food. It's going to come with an emotional awakening, and just be ready to deal with the stuff that surfaces, and do the work to heal. So the one thing that I do is try not to offer food as a Band-Aid for life's adversity. With my kids, I don't want to pass that on to the next generation.
Oh, amen, Jessica.
I can't say I do it
Amen.
perfectly. I can't say it. My papa said there's not many problems that can't be solved by a cup of ice cream. And I lived that, but I've never found any answers at the bottom of the carton. So I had to do some unlearning of that. And God bless him. What he was really saying is having communion with other people and sharing your struggles is what leads to healing. We just happened to be eating ice cream while we were doing it, right? So it's not the ice cream that fixes it. It's the relationships and the communion with others, shared living experiences. And that was hard for me to differentiate. Your body doesn't really know the difference. You have to do the work.
Yeah,
You know,
I can really appreciate that, Jessica. The idea of memory. So many of my fondest memories are in and around food,
Mm-hmm.
either food, around the kitchen table at home, around the dining room table at home, or going out to a special restaurant on special occasions, or going to the ice cream stand and having a cone as a kid, or so I want to be sure that we let everyone know that's listening, watching, that this is not about shaming, embarrassing, um, trying to make what I believe has been provided to us, to take the joy out of any of this. It's just, there's just wiser choices that can affect you after the
Mm-hmm.
fact, and that's what I
Mm-hmm.
think Justin's trying to help us with here. Justin, how about you? What's the one thing that you would say we need to know? What's it come down to?
I'm gonna speak to something Jessica said, and then I'm gonna just drop something easy for everyone at the very end. But I'm out here traveling the world to study human connection, and everywhere I go, and as of the recording of this podcast, there's a lot of seemingly unrest, or there's a lot of things that we're dealing with from an emotional and collective humanity stress level.
Mm-hmm.
And you alluded to it, or maybe actually you're quite direct, Jessica, but I think the only way we're going to turn this ship around and is to get our power back as humanity. And that is, so everything that I teach, and like even this conversation about the microbiome and about food, it really goes back to stuff we said earlier, which is sovereignty and freedom and clarity of thought. Because if you have that clarity of thought, you make better decisions. Maybe you vote differently, or about different topics that affect food and agriculture and politics and religious choices and things like that, and how you get along with other people because you're more self-regulated. So maybe you don't overact to your loved ones and your friends and your neighbors, right? So it seems like a simple topic, but this is at the foundation of everything that we're dealing with collectively. I mean, it all comes back to, what are we putting in our body? What are you putting in the temple? You know what I mean? Because what you put in is what you're getting out. So, all right, that's my spiel there. But here's a takeaway for folks. Where do you begin, like with this process, right? Pay attention to your poop.
What?
I mean, and it's so funny how shy we all are to talk about poop, but I talk all day, every day to clients about poop, right? And we all poop all the time, every day. We got a really clear hint on how much everybody's thinking about poop in 2020 when all the toilet paper was gone everywhere, right?
No, that's
But so
right.
here's the thing, like, you can take into account how you actually feel in your gut. Like, is your belly distended? Do you feel inflamed? Do you have gas or bloating? And so ideally, folks, you want to be going to the bathroom once a day at least. And the consistency, you don't want it to be too solid or too loose. And surprisingly, it doesn't matter, male, female, whatever. There's a lot of more of the loose stool that you hear about, and also more of like the constipation thing. And there's a multitude of reasons behind that. So the first place is just to bring awareness. Oh, did I poop today? And like, what was it like? Because I've talked to clients who are like, oh, I didn't poop for like 2 or 3 days. I'm like, what? Because it's a major detoxification pathway too. So of course you're gonna get in a bad mood. And there's a lot of simple ways to start to rebuild the microbiome, but pay attention to that first. If you're not like really regular there, then you need to be like, oh, maybe I should call Justin. and look him up and see what I could do differently, and yeah.
Well, Justin, how do they call you? How do they reach you?
Okay. Well, I have links to my Work With Me page on my website, on Instagram and Facebook. and also on my website, justingabossi.com. And there's a work with me link there. And there's a couple different ways that people can engage. They can reach out for just a short health planning session, a health strategy session. We can kind of look at what's going on with the physiology in the body and give them like a kind of a simple place to start. It's like an easy place to start and some basics. And of course, I offer group coaching and one-on-one coaching too. But yeah, this is my passion. I love doing this because I see the change in people mentally, emotionally, and physically, and that makes us all collectively happier and healthier, right?
Yeah. Hey, listen, this is probably there's never been an endorsement quite like this, but I have never pooped better than since I've worked with Justin. I have the best poop.
Yes.
Every day. We can talk about school, the consistency, all of it. I pay attention to it. Yeah. So if you want to be a great pooper like me, give Justin a call.
Hey, it's a game changer.
I don't think there is a better endorsement than,
right? I'm going to sign that. Put that on your website, Justin.
Okay.
That's a testimonial right there. It needs to say, Mark Steiner, I've never pooped better.
I'm gonna chop this up and put this in a reel on Instagram if you're cool with it, bro.
Oh man. Okay.
We'll talk about it offline.
Yeah. I think I'm good with that. All right. Anything else? Closing thoughts? Does that cover it? That's kind of the mic drop right there.
That's the mic drop, bro. You gave it to us.
All right. Well, thanks for listening to Big Ideas. I hope you're glad you did. A podcast about people, perspective, and the ideas that shape who we're becoming. If this episode sparks something for you, stay curious. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.